Hi, Katie. It is Catherine's mom back again with another chapter. The odds of getting even. We're on chapter 10, Breakfast at Harm's. I still had Dale on my mind as I knocked on Harm's kitchen door. Just in time, Lobo, Harm said, swinging the door open. His dark hair still glistened from his shower. He wore a white t-shirt neatly tucked into dark jeans. Help yourself to juice. We eat in 5. Harm looks at home in a kitchen, spinning from sink to stove. Before Harm moved in, Mr. Red's kitchen held towers of dirty dishes and watched the world through grimy panes. Now, a potted begonia sat in the middle of the polished oak table, and curtains hung neat at the sparkling windows. I grabbed an orange juice. "Where'd you learn to cook?" "My mom." He flipped a pancake and slid the black iron griddle to catch it. "She'll be a big singer soon as she gets a break." "That's where you get your good voice," I said. He grinned. "The point is, somebody had to cook." His string bean arms are filling out, I thought, watching him tip a pancake onto the spatula and dip and flip it. "You've been lifting Dale's weights." "A little," he said, grabbing his wrist and flexing his muscles. "Show off," Mr. Red said, shuffling in to wash his paint-covered hands at the sink. "Miss Lana says always compliment your host's home." "Nice shade of pink," I said, watching the pink paint swirl down the drain. He gave me a look from beneath his white eyebrows. "Just sprucing up the place," he said. "Pink is Lacey's favorite color." Pink? Is he mad? "Used to be, anyway," Harm said, 70 or 80 years ago. Mr. Red smiled. "I'm making things nice for Harm and me. If Lacey likes it, so much the better." He dried his hands, leaving a faint pink smudge on the towel. "Breakfast is served," Harm said, placing his pancakes on the table. I sat and whisked my paper towel into my lap. "Bless the food, bless the cook. Amen," Mr. Red muttered, and shoved the pancakes my way. "Where's Dale? He usually trails you like a shadow." I loaded up on pancakes. "Helping Miss Rose and Lavender." Harm stacked his flapjacks neat as Tuesday. Mr. Red forked up a landslide. "Miss Lana said invite you for Thanksgiving dinner at our house," I said, and they smiled identical smiles. "What else do you do around here to celebrate?" Harm asked. "School play most years," I told him. "Hope not," he muttered. "I get stage fright." We continued on, hitting the highlights: Macon's escape, the scarcity of clues, Dale's guineas. Mr. Red shocked me on the guineas. "Smart idea. Dale has brains. He just has a gear most of us can't find." Harm looked at his grandfather. "Gramps, Dale doesn't think Mr. Macon robbed the church." Mr. Red frowned. "It's tough hearing your father did something you can't imagine." He said, "Are people treating Dale right?" Harm shook his head. "School's a freaking nightmare. I don't know how he walks in there. Mrs. Simpson called Dale's family white trash, and Mo tried to fight. Thess has turned against Dale, and us too, if I read him right yesterday." Mr. Red's fork froze in midair. "Thess? The preacher's boy?" "He even turned on Mo, and he really likes her," Harm said, his voice teasing. I flipped a speck of pancake at him. "Eat it or leave it, but don't throw it," Mr. Red muttered, and drowned his pancakes in syrup. "Don't let that church turn on Dale. He's not tough enough." "Dale's plenty tough," I said. It's a reflex, standing up for Dale. Mr. Red grinned at me. "You remind me of somebody I used to know." "Miss Lacey Thornton," Harm guessed. "You caught a bad break when you were a boy, Gramps, just like Dale's catching one now. Mr. Red has a moonshine past with some ugly stories hooked in." He shrugged his thin shoulders. "I've known Dale all his life. Macon used to bring Dale by when he was no bigger than a minute. Macon was a better man then," he said. "But he can't let things go. He's never satisfied. Everything feels like a slight to him. It doesn't matter how much he drinks or steals or makes Rose cry, nothing will ever fill making up. Dale never mentioned moonshine shopping with his daddy, but Dale never mentioned a lot of things. Keep standing up for Dale like Lacey did for me, he said, and square things with this if you can. Gossip's like a ship, hard to turn and harder to stop. Dale needs that church sailing with him. Harm buttered his pancakes. Make nice with this? We can do that, he said, and then he gave me his faux angel look. Good thing we didn't insult his cat. Crud, spitz. Mr. Red popped up and ferried his plate to the sink. Put in a word for me with Lacey, will you, Mo? He asked, his old eyes twinkling. Miss Lana says love's like time travel. Could be. Just saying Grandmother Miss Lacey's name put a spring in Mr. Red's step as he headed for the door. There's Tess, Harm said a few hours later as we headed across the school grounds. Let's make nice, like Gramps said. Tess, I said, as Dale slammed his bike into the rack. How's the weather? Normally, Tess babbles weather. Today, he studied the sky and wandered away. Anna, he shouted, wait up. I got a forecast for you. My blood ran ice. He's crossed over to the dark side, I told Harm. Dale sprinted up. Hey, he said, do you think anybody filled out a puppy application? Liz is a nervous wreck. Queen Elizabeth? Nervous? Hannah opened her satchel. Question answered, Dale. This is from little Agnes, she said, handing him a form. If you give her a pup, I'll help her. Dale smiled, very shy. Thank you. I'll keep her in mind, he said, and slipped the application into his backpack. Little Agnes was the first of many. Dale glowed as the applications rained across his desk. Thank you, he said. We'll be in touch. Thank you. Thank you. The kids filed by. Sal with 2 apps, one for her and one for Skeeter. Susanna, Jimmy, and Jake. Jake placed a Snickers bar on his. Dale turned his head. Jake slipped the candy back in his pocket. Dale slid the application onto the pile. I gave Tess my best insincere smile. He took his blank application from his notebook, crumpled it, and tossed it at the wastepaper basket. Tess and Attila kept the church rumors buzzing like chainsaws the rest of the day. Dale ignored them. He skimmed applications behind a wall of open school books until the bell rang and we sprinted for freedom. You sorting those today? I asked as we hit the playground. We could post the puppy list tomorrow morning. Miss Lana says strike while the iron is hot. He jerked his bike out of the rack. Maybe tonight, he said. Today, I got a surprise for Miss Thornton. Plus, Lavender invited us over to see his new car. He frowned. Did I forget to tell you? Dale makes me crazy. If I'd known Lavender had invited us to Grandmother Miss Lacey's old garage where he fixes cars, I'd have worn my other sweatshirt, the one without the gravy monogram. Miss Lana says fate keeps us humble. The Colonel says he'd hate to meet her in a dark alley. We dropped our bikes by Grandmother Miss Lacey's dogwood. I grabbed my camera from the basket as Dale tore to the garage. The front door squeaked open, and she stepped out smiling. Hey, Lavender invited us over, Harm said, and Dale brought you a surprise. I avoided her eyes. Dale's surprises can turn. Dale struggled toward us with a pet carrier, his slight body leaning against his weight. He set the cage by the steps and opened the door. 2 guineas popped their heads out. Paste-white, wrinkled skin, cherry red dots on each cheek, a sparse tuft of feathers on their tiny heads. They darted out and screamed across the yard. Those are the ugliest birds I've ever seen, Grandmother Miss Lacey said, blinking. Yes, but they make up for it by being loud, Dale said. Guineas are the best watch animals next to a dog. You alone in this big house isn't safe. I'm the man of our house, and I thought I'd help you too. Until you and Mr. Red You know, go steady. The guineas shrieked. An azalea woman opened her front door and peered out. How generous, Grandmother Miss Lacy said. How do you get them back in the cage? You don't, Dale said. It's not mine. They'll sleep in your trees. I'm glad you have two, because one would be lonely. A guinea flapped across the ground, catapulted into the air, and slammed into the side of the garage. It picked itself up and ran off again. Grandmother Miss Lacy took a deep breath. She's going to kill Dale, I thought, and stepped back. Harm stepped back too. Good instinct. Instead of killing Dale, she wrapped him in a fierce hug. Thank you for caring about me. Do come in while I find my coat. We stood in the hall as she ravaged her closet. Somebody robbed Creekside Baptist yesterday, Dale said. People say it was Daddy, but it wasn't. Her radiator clunked. I held my breath, hoping Dale wouldn't ask me to back him up on Macon's innocent claim. Yes, dear, I heard. The pipes clanked. That heater has me at my wit's end. I may have to buy a new one. That one's as old as I am. It's probably still under warranty then, Harm said, and she laughed. Where did Harm learn how to flirt? Moments later, Lavender beamed at us. Allow me to introduce you to the latest number 32 car, he said, jacking the car up a notch and kicking the jack stands out of the way. Don't ever go under a car without jack stands, little brother, he said, letting the jack down, because if the jack slips, you could be crushed or trapped. And I know, Dale said. You told me 1,000 times. How's she looking? Lavender grinned. I think you'll appreciate her lines and her pipes. I aimed my camera and pulled back the tarp like a magician. We gasped. Miss Lana said reality is like cheap shampoo. Sometimes it takes a while to sink in. This was one of those times. Click. The car slumped like a refugee from a junkyard. Dingy, tired, lonely for paint. Dang, son, that's old, Harm said. Classic Monte Carlo, Lavender said, glowing. Well, she'll be classic when I'm through. Bought her off a driver in Tar Heel, North Carolina. I love Tupelo Landing, he said, but this car is my ticket to bigger things. He leaned against the car. Lavender, who's dazzling in his overalls, leans better than anybody I know. Click. Dale kicked a tire. Does she roll? The body needs work, but she sings like an angel. Lavender reached through the window and turned the key. The engine roared to life. Yeah, boy, Harm said, leaning into the sound. She's lovely, Grandmother Miss Lacy said. What color will you choose? Black, Harm and Dale said, together. I shook my head. Purple, like your last car. The door flew open behind us, and a cold swirl of dead leaves swept into the garage. I vote green, Flick Crenshaw said, the color of a dead man's car. A dead man's car, Grandmother Miss Lacy cried. Harm glared at his big brother. That's an old racing superstition, Miss Thornton, he said, and it's bull. What do you want, Flick? That's a lame ride, Flick said, scouting the car. Good enough to beat you, I said. Really? Name the time and place. I bet $100 on me. Normally, Lavender doesn't have 2 words for Flick Crenshaw. Not 2. Miss Rose allows anyway. To my surprise, he nudged Dale. What do you think? Smart. A race would give Dale one more thing to think about until the Mr. Macon hoopla dies down. Sometimes I think Dale and Miss Rose shape every decision Lavender makes. Then I see him with a big-haired twin and think twice. Me? Dale said. Yes, I think so. Beating Flick is always good. Miss Thornton? Lavender asked. She shrugged. $100 wager hardly seems worth it getting out of bed for. But what do I know? I'm only the sponsor. The sponsor? Well, the inn is, technically, she said. Lana and I feel it's only a matter of time before Lavender wins at Hallelujah. Tattagata, Dale said. $1,000 then, Flick said, and Harm did a double take. You're on, Flick, Lavender said, smooth as if he had $1,000. Now get out of my garage and stay out. That night, I grabbed Volume 7 and a green ink pen formerly known as Attila's. Dear Upstream Mother, good news. I'm on Team Lavender, and the race is on. Bad news, Thess ain't making up. Now, I wish I hadn't called Spitz ugly, but like Miss Lana says, you can't unsay words once they're launched any more than you can unshoot an arrow. Did I get my mouth from you? If so, feel free to take it back. Mo. And that's the end of Chapter 10.